The hallway fell silent as the new girl stared down the barrel of Jason Cole's rage. His knuckles white, his pride wounded, his smirk fading with every second she refused to flinch. "Oops," he sneered, kicking her books across the floor. "Didn't see you there." But Riley Carter didn't bend. She didn't beg. She just smiled, slow and dangerous, and whispered, "You should have looked harder." By the time his body hit the linoleum 8 seconds later, 3 ribs cracked and his ego shattered. The school would learn the truth. Some ghosts don't haunt quietly. They fight back. From which country are you enjoying this story? Please make sure to tell us in the comments. Subscribe for the next twist, because the underground never forgets a champion.
The bell rang, and the usual chaos of Lincoln High's hallway erupted. Backpacks slammed into lockers, sneakers squeaked against linoleum, and laughter bounced off the walls like it owned the place. Right in the middle of it all, Riley Carter stood still, a silent island in the storm. She adjusted the strap of her bag, eyes scanning the crowd without interest. Just another day. Just another school. A shoulder slammed into hers. Hard. Her notebook hit the ground. Papers scattering. Oops. The voice was all fake apology. Didn't see you there. Riley didn't move. She let the papers stay where they were and slowly lifted her gaze. Jason Cole smirked down at her, his Letterman jacket practically screaming his status. Star quarterback. King of the school. And apparently, a guy who got his kicks from shoving around the new girl. Behind him, his friends snickered. One of them fake coughed. Freak. Riley exhaled through her nose. She'd seen this play out before, just not here, not yet. Jason nudged her fallen notebook with his shoe. You gonna pick this up, or what? For a second, Riley just stared at him. Then, very deliberately, she stepped on the notebook herself, right on the center of its spine. The crunch of the pages under her sneaker was louder than it should have been. Jason's smirk faltered. Riley smiled. Not a nervous smile. Not a scared one. The kind of smile that made the back of Jason's neck prickle. "You're right," she said, voice calm. "I should have been watching where I was going." A pause. Would have avoided the trash in my way. Silence. Then a sharp gasp from someone in the crowd. Jason's face darkened. He took a step forward, looming over her. "What did you just say?" Riley didn't back up. She tilted her head, like she was studying a bug. "You heard me." The hallway had gone quiet. Even the teachers pretending not to notice the drama had stopped pretending. Jason's fist clenched. For a second, it looked like he might actually swing. Then the warning bell rang, and he forced a laugh, shaking his head like she wasn't worth it. "Whatever. Enjoy being the school joke, new girl." He kicked her notebook aside as he walked past, his friends following like obedient little shadows. Riley watched them go. Then, without hurry, she bent down and picked up her papers. A girl with blue-streaked hair hesitated nearby. "Hey, you okay?" Riley stacked the pages neatly. "Yeah, that was Jason Cole. You don't want to mess with him." Riley slid the papers back into her bag. Too late. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Riley made her way to her next class. The whispers started before she even reached the door. Asterisk. Did you see that? Asterisk. Asterisk. Who does she think she is? Asterisk. Asterisk. Jason's gonna destroy her. Asterisk. She ignored them all, sliding into an empty desk at the back of the classroom. The teacher droned on about algebra, but Riley's attention was elsewhere. Her fingers tapped a silent rhythm against the desk. Left, right, a habit she'd picked up in the ring to keep her reflexes sharp. Across the room, a guy with shaggy brown hair kept glancing at her. Not the usual predatory stare she'd grown used to, but something more curious. When the teacher turned to write on the board, he slipped into the seat beside her. "You're either really brave or really stupid," he muttered, keeping his eyes forward. Riley didn't look at him. "There a difference?" He smirked. Ethan didn't ask. The smirk didn't fade. "You will." The bell rang, cutting off whatever else he might have said. Riley was out of her seat before the echo died, but Ethan caught up to her in the hallway. "Look, Just some friendly advice, he said, falling into step beside her. Jason's not gonna let this slide. He's got the whole school wrapped around his finger, and he hates looking weak. Riley stopped walking. And maybe don't walk home alone today. She studied his face for the first time. No mockery there, just genuine concern. It almost made her laugh. Thanks for the warning, she said, and meant it. Then she turned down the hallway, leaving him standing there. The final bell couldn't come fast enough. Riley shoved her books into her bag, eager to get out before. Hey, freak. Too late. 3 guys blocked the classroom door, Jason at the center. His grin was all teeth. We were thinking of giving you a proper welcome to Lincoln High. What do you say? Riley adjusted her backpack straps. I say you're wasting my time. Jason's smile didn't reach his eyes. He stepped closer, invading her space. See, that's the thing. I don't like your attitude. And when I don't like something... He glanced at his friends. I usually break it. The hallway had emptied fast. Even the teacher pretended not to notice as they hurried out the back door. Riley sighed. You done. Jason's fist came out of nowhere. Or it would have, if Riley hadn't seen it coming from a mile away. She ducked, letting the momentum carry him stumbling past her. His friends froze, unsure whether to jump in or laugh. Jason whirled, face red. You little... This time when he swung, Riley didn't dodge. She caught his wrist mid-air, twisting just enough to make him gasp. Here's your first free lesson, she said, voice low. Never lead with your right. Then she kneed him in the gut. Jason folded like a cheap lawn chair, hitting the ground with a thud that echoed through the empty hallway. His friends stared, torn between helping him and running. Riley stepped over him. Tell your boys to pick better role models. She was almost to the exit when Jason wheezed out. This isn't over. Riley didn't turn around. Yeah, it is. The parking lot was nearly empty when Riley finally stepped outside. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the asphalt. She took a deep breath, savoring the momentary peace. It didn't last. A black SUV idled at the edge of the lot, windows tinted dark. Riley's shoulders tensed. She knew that car, knew what it meant. The passenger window rolled down just enough for her to see the scar running down the driver's cheek. Been a while, Ghost, he said. Riley's hands curled into fists at her sides. I'm retired. The man chuckled. Nobody retires from the underground. You know that. A car door slammed somewhere behind her, startling them both. Ethan from her algebra class stood by a beat-up Honda, staring at the scene with wide eyes. The man in the SUV scowled. This isn't finished. Then the window rolled up, and the car peeled out of the lot. Ethan approached slowly. Everything okay? Riley forced her hands to relax. Peachy. You sure? Because that looked. Drop it. Ethan held up his hands. Okay. Just, you need a ride or something. Riley looked at him, really looked this time. No ulterior motives. No agenda. Just a guy offering help. Against her better judgment, she nodded. Yeah, thanks. As they pulled out of the parking lot, Riley watched the school disappear in the side mirror. One day down. Only a few hundred more to go. But first, she had a bigger problem. The underground had found her, and they never let go without a fight. Word count, 1,500. Continuing to expand to reach 3,000 plus. The engine of Ethan's Honda sputtered as they turned onto the main road. Riley kept her eyes on the side mirror, watching for any sign of the black SUV. You live far from here? Ethan asked, fingers tapping nervously on the steering wheel. Far enough, Riley said. Ethan sighed. Look, I get you're not the sharing type, but that guy back there, he didn't look like the friendly sort. Riley finally turned away from the window. What do you know about the underground? The car swerved slightly as Ethan jerked in surprise. The what now? Never mind. Riley went back to watching the road. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Is that why you took down Jason so easily? Riley didn't answer. Because I've seen fights before, Ethan continued. What you did back there, that wasn't just some self-defense class move. That was professional. The traffic light turned red. Riley counted the seconds in her head. 20, 19, 18. Turn left here, she said when they reached 12. Ethan took the turn, but didn't drop it. You're in trouble, aren't you? Riley finally looked at him. Why do you care? Maybe I'm just tired of watching people like Jason run the school, Ethan said. Maybe I like rooting for the underdog. Riley almost smiled. You're rooting for the wrong person. The houses grew farther apart as they reached the edge of town. Riley pointed to a rundown apartment complex. Here's good. Ethan pulled over but kept the engine running. You sure you don't want me to? I'm sure. Riley opened the door before he could finish. Thanks for the ride. She was halfway up the walkway when Ethan called out, I could help, you know. Riley didn't turn around. Apartment 4B was exactly as she'd left it. Bare walls, a single chair, and a mattress on the floor. Riley dropped her bag by the door and went straight to the window, checking the street below. No black SUV. Not yet. She pulled a burner phone from her pocket and dialed a number she'd hoped never to use again. It rang once, twice. Damn ghost, a familiar voice answered. Took you long enough. Riley leaned against the wall. What do they want, Marco? Same thing they always want, Marco said. A show. And baby, you were their main attraction. Riley closed her eyes. I'm out. Nobody's ever out, Marco said, voice turning serious. You know the rules. You walk away, you owe. And your debts come due. A car door slammed outside. Riley peeked through the blinds. Two men in dark jackets stood by the curb, scanning the building. They're here, she whispered. Marco sighed. Then you got two choices, kid. You run again or you fight. Riley watched as one of the men pointed to her building. Guess running's off the table, she muttered. Marco chuckled. Atta girl. Welcome home. The line went dead as someone pounded on her door. Riley Carter? A deep voice called. We know you're in there. Riley took a deep breath. Then she reached under the mattress and pulled out a pair of worn hand wraps. She'd tried being normal. Time to be the ghost again. The pounding on the door didn't stop. If anything, it got louder. Riley finished wrapping her hands, flexing her fingers to test the tightness. The fabric was worn but familiar, like an old friend she tried to forget. Last chance, ghost, the voice outside growled. Open up, or we come in. Riley rolled her shoulders, feeling the tension in her muscles. She hadn't fought in months, but her body remembered. It always remembered. She took one last look around the apartment. No real attachments. Nothing worth staying for. Just like always. The door burst open with a crash, splintering the frame. Two men filled the doorway, both built like they'd been carved out of concrete. The one on the left had a scar across his eyebrow. Riley recognized him from the underground. Call sign. Hammer. The other was new, but the way he carried himself said he'd been in the game long enough to be dangerous. Hammer smirked when he saw her. Look at this. The great ghost, hiding in a shitbox apartment. Riley didn't move from her spot by the window. You here to talk, or you here to fight? The new guy cracked his knuckles. Boss wants you back. Boss can go to hell. Hammer sighed like he was disappointed. Should have known you'd make this difficult. They rushed her at the same time. Riley ducked under Hammer's first swing, driving her elbow into his ribs. He grunted but didn't go down, grabbing her arm and yanking her forward. The new guy came in from the side, fist aimed at her temple. Riley twisted, using Hammer's grip as leverage to kick out, her foot connecting with the new guy's knee. Something popped, and he went down with a curse. Hammer didn't let go. He slammed her into the wall, the impact rattling her teeth. Riley saw stars for a second, but she'd taken worse. She brought her knee up, catching him in the thigh. Not enough to drop him, but enough to make him loosen his grip. She wrenched free and jabbed two fingers into his throat. Hammer staggered back, choking. Riley didn't give him time to recover. She grabbed the back of his head and drove her knee into his face. Once. Twice. On the third hit, he went down hard. The new guy was back on his feet, favoring his injured leg. He pulled a knife from his boot. Riley sighed. Really? He lunged. Riley sidestepped, catching his wrist and twisting until the knife clattered to the floor. She kicked it away, then swept his legs out from under him. He hit the ground with a thud, and she dropped her full weight onto his chest, pinning him. "Tell your boss I'm not coming back," she said, voice low. "And if he sends anyone else, I won't go easy on them." The guy spat at her. Riley slammed his head into the floor once, just enough to daze him, then stood up. Hammer was still groaning on the ground, blood dripping from his nose. Riley stepped over him and grabbed her bag from the corner. She didn't have much, but she wasn't coming back here. She paused in the doorway, looking back at the wreckage of her apartment. So much for a fresh start. The stairwell was empty. Riley took the steps 2 at a time, hitting the ground floor just as a black SUV screeched to a stop outside. 2 more guys jumped out. Riley cursed under her breath and ducked into the alley beside the building. She could hear them shouting behind her, boots pounding on pavement. She vaulted over a dumpster, landing hard on the other side, and kept running. The alley twisted and turned, a maze of fire escapes and overflowing trash cans. Riley knew these streets, had memorized every escape route when she first moved in. She cut through a narrow gap between 2 buildings, scraping her shoulder on the brick, and popped out onto the next street over. No sign of the SUV. She slowed to a walk, blending in with the after-school crowd. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline. She clenched them into fists until the trembling stopped. A bus pulled up to the curb. Riley got on without checking the destination. She needed to disappear, at least for tonight. The bus was half empty. Riley took a seat near the back, keeping her head down. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out. Unknown number. The text was short. "You can't run forever." Riley deleted it and turned the phone off. Ethan was waiting by her locker the next morning. Riley considered walking right past him, but he stepped into her path before she could. "You okay?" he asked, voice low. Riley shrugged. "Peachy." Ethan frowned. "You look like hell." She probably did. She'd spent the night on a park bench, dozing in short bursts, waking at every sound. Not exactly restful. "Thanks for the concern," she said, pushing past him to open her locker. Ethan didn't leave. "Look, I don't know what's going on with you, but if you're in trouble..." "I'm not." Riley slammed her locker shut. "Drop it." Ethan held up his hands. "Fine. But if you change your mind..." He pulled a scrap of paper from his pocket and scribbled something on it. "My number. In case you need backup." Riley stared at the paper like it might bite her. No one had ever offered backup before. She took it, if only to get him to leave. Whatever. Ethan grinned like he'd won something and sauntered off. Riley shoved the number in her pocket without looking at it. Jason and his crew were watching from down the hall. Riley met his gaze, unblinking. He looked away first. Small victories. The rest of the morning passed without incident. Riley kept to herself, ignoring the whispers that followed her through the halls. By lunch, the story of her fight with Jason had grown into something ridiculous. Apparently, she'd put him in the hospital with a single punch. Riley sat alone at a corner table, picking at her food. She wasn't hungry, but she needed the energy. A tray clattered onto the table across from her. Riley looked up to see Ethan sliding into the seat. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, already unwrapping his sandwich. Riley raised an eyebrow. "Do I have a choice?" "Nope." He took a huge bite, talking around it. "So, you got any hobbies besides beating up jocks?" Riley almost smiled. "Almost. You're annoying." "So I've been told." Ethan leaned forward. "Seriously though, you're not like anyone else here. I want to know why." Riley studied him. He wasn't like the others either. No hidden agenda, no fake charm. Just genuine. It was unsettling. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you," she said finally. Ethan grinned. "Try me." Riley opened her mouth, then closed it. The cafeteria doors had swung open, and 3 men in suits walked in. Not teachers. Not students. Her blood ran cold. The underground had found her again. The suited men didn't rush. They moved through the cafeteria like sharks circling prey, their eyes locked on Riley. Students instinctively moved out of their way without understanding why. Ethan followed Riley's gaze. Friends of yours? Riley's fingers tightened around her plastic fork. Get out of here. What? Now? Her voice left no room for argument. The lead man, early 40s, salt and pepper hair, a jagged scar running from ear to chin, smiled when he reached their table. Riley Carter. Or should I say, Ghost. Murmurs rippled through nearby tables. Ethan's eyes widened. Riley stood slowly, keeping the table between them. You don't want to do this here, Victor. Victor's smile didn't reach his cold gray eyes. The boss is tired of playing hide and seek. You owe him 3 fights. I owe him nothing. A hand clamped on Riley's shoulder from behind. She reacted without thinking, elbow back into a stomach, foot stomping down on an instep. The third man gasped in pain as she twisted free. Chaos erupted. Students screamed, scrambling away as Victor's men lunged. Riley flipped the lunch table up as a shield, sending trays and food flying. Ethan stumbled back, colliding with a group of freshmen. Security! Someone call security! A teacher shouted. Victor ignored the panic, stepping over spilled milk like it was beneath him. Come quietly, or we make this messy. Riley's eyes darted to the emergency exit. Too far. The windows? Maybe. Then Jason Cole and his football buddies blocked her path. Where you going, freak? Jason grinned, cracking his knuckles. Looks like you've got friends who want to play. Trapped. Riley's pulse roared in her ears. She'd taken on multiple opponents before, but never in a room full of civilians. Never with Ethan watching. Victor sighed. Enough games. He reached inside his jacket. The fire alarm shrieked to life, drowning all other noise. Sprinklers erupted overhead, drenching everyone in cold water. Through the sudden downpour, Riley saw Ethan yanking the alarm lever by the doors. Their eyes met. He jerked his head toward the exit. Riley moved. She feinted left, then ducked under Jason's wild swing, driving her shoulder into his gut. He folded with a whoosh of air as she vaulted over him. Victor shouted something lost in the alarm's wail as Riley sprinted past stunned students. Ethan was already holding the door open when she reached him. They burst outside into the parking lot, the alarm still screaming behind them. Car. Now, Ethan gasped, fumbling with his keys. Riley didn't argue. They skidded around the corner just as Victor and his men emerged from the building. The Honda's engine coughed to life as Ethan peeled out of the parking lot. For a full minute, neither spoke. Riley watched the rearview mirror, waiting for black SUVs to appear. Finally, Ethan exhaled sharply. So, ghost, huh? Riley wiped water from her face. You shouldn't have done that. Yeah, well, you look like you could use the assist. He glanced at her. Those guys were serious. More than you know. Ethan's hands tightened on the wheel. Start talking. All of it. The rain started then, fat drops splattering against the windshield. Riley watched them blur together as she spoke. 2 years ago, I was homeless after my dad skipped out on rent. Some guys tried to jump me in an alley. I fought back. She flexed her hands, remembering. Turns out one of them was a scout for the underground. The Fight Club. Not just any fight club. The kind where they don't use gloves. The kind where people disappear if they lose too often. Riley's voice grew quiet. I was good at it. Too good. They called me Ghost because no one could land a hit. Ethan swallowed hard. And now they want you back? I walked away after. Riley hesitated. After someone died in the ring. Not by my hands, but close enough. The boss said I owed him for lost revenue. The wipers squeaked against the glass. Ethan took a turn too fast, sending water spraying up from the curb. So what now? Riley stared at the passing buildings. Now you drop me somewhere and forget you ever met me. Not happening. Ethan. I'm in this now, he said firmly. Like it or not. Riley studied his profile, the stubborn set of his jaw, the way his grip on the wheel didn't shake despite everything. She'd never had someone refuse to abandon her before. The Honda's radio crackled with a news bulletin. Reports of a disturbance at Lincoln High School. Police are asking witnesses. Ethan turned it off. We need a plan. Riley watched a black car slide through an intersection behind them. Her stomach dropped. First, she said quietly, we lose the tail. Ethan's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. Oh shit. The car accelerated. The black sedan gained on them, its engine roaring as it swerved around a slow-moving minivan. Ethan white-knuckled the wheel, cutting sharply down a side street. Who the hell are these guys? He shouted over the squeal of tires. Riley braced herself against the dashboard. Victor's cleanup crew. They don't like loose ends. The Honda's rear tires skidded on wet pavement as Ethan took another turn too fast. The sedan matched their move effortlessly, its tinted windows hiding the number of pursuers inside. Any bright ideas? Ethan asked, glancing between the road and the mirror. Riley's mind raced. They couldn't lead these men to her usual haunts. Couldn't involve anyone else. She made a split-second decision. Take the next left. Then immediate right into the old industrial park. Ethan didn't question her. The Honda fishtailed as they cut across 2 lanes of traffic, horns blaring behind them. The industrial park loomed ahead, abandoned warehouses with broken windows and chain-link fences. The sedan followed them through the gates, closing the gap to just 2 car lengths. Riley spotted the warehouse she wanted, third on the left, its loading dock doors hanging crookedly on their tracks. There. Rammed the side door. Ethan's eyes widened. Are you? Do it. The Honda plowed through the rotting wooden door with a crash, sending splinters flying. The airbags deployed as they skidded to a stop inside the dim warehouse. Riley was moving before the dust settled. She kicked her door open and grabbed Ethan's arm. Run. Now. They sprinted between towering shelves of forgotten machinery as the sedan screeched to a halt outside. Doors slammed. Voices shouted in Russian. Ethan gasped as they ducked behind a rusted generator. You've done this before. Riley didn't answer. She was counting footsteps. 3, maybe 4 men spreading out through the warehouse. One set grew closer. Riley pressed a finger to her lips as the footsteps paused just on the other side of their hiding spot. A beam of flashlight cut through the dusty air. Ethan held his breath. The moment stretched. Then the footsteps moved away. Riley exhaled slowly. We need to split up. Draw them apart. Ethan shook his head violently. She grabbed his jacket collar, pulling him close enough to whisper. Listen. There's a stairwell in the northwest corner. Leads to the roof. Get there, wait 5 minutes, then jump to the next building. What about you? Riley's smile was all teeth. I'm going to remind them why they call me Ghost. Before he could argue, she picked up a loose bolt and hurled it across the warehouse. It clattered against metal shelves, drawing shouts from their pursuers. Go! Riley shoved Ethan in the opposite direction and stepped out into the open. Looking for me? The nearest man spun, raising his gun. Riley was already moving. She closed the distance in 3 strides, driving her palm up under his chin. His head snapped back with a crack as she wrenched the weapon from his grip. 2 more rounded the corner. Riley dropped into a slide, kicking the legs out from under the first as she fired 2 shots at the second. Both went down. The warehouse fell eerily quiet. Then a new voice echoed through the space, one that turned Riley's blood to ice. Very impressive, little ghost. Victor stepped into the dim light near the broken entrance, his scarred face twisted in a smile. In his arms, he held a struggling Ethan by the throat. But you forgot about the back door. Riley's grip tightened on the gun. Let him go. Victor chuckled, pressing a knife to Ethan's ribs. Drop the weapon, or I show you what your friend looks like inside. Ethan's eyes were wide with terror, but he managed to choke out, Don't. The knife pressed deeper. A spot of blood bloomed on Ethan's shirt. Riley lowered the gun. Victor's smile widened. Good girl. Now kick it. A deafening bang cut him off as the warehouse doors exploded inward. Bright light flooded the space as 3 police cruisers skidded into view, sirens wailing. Victor snarled a curse in Russian. He shoved Ethan forward into a stack of crates and bolted for a rear exit. Riley dove to catch Ethan as the crates toppled around them. "Police! Hands where we can see them!" Riley raised her hand slowly, shielding Ethan with her body. The officers advanced cautiously, weapons drawn. One officer, a grizzled sergeant with a salt and pepper mustache, took in the scene with a practiced eye. His gaze lingered on Riley's bruised knuckles. The unconscious men scattered through the warehouse. "Someone want to tell me what the hell's going on here?" Ethan coughed, wiping blood from his lip. "We were kidnapped." The sergeant raised an eyebrow at Riley. "That's so." She met his gaze evenly. "They followed us from school." For a long moment, the warehouse was silent except for the crackle of police radios. Then the sergeant sighed and holstered his weapon. "All right, kids. Let's get you to the station. We'll sort this out." As they were led to separate cruisers, Riley caught Ethan's eye. His expression was equal parts awe and fear, and something else she couldn't name. The sergeant opened the cruiser door for her. "After you, miss." Riley hesitated just a second too long. "Cole," she lied smoothly. "Riley Cole." The name tasted like ash in her mouth. But as the cruiser pulled away from the warehouse, Riley allowed herself one small relief. Victor was gone. For now. The fluorescent lights in the interrogation room buzzed like angry wasps. Riley sat perfectly still, her hands folded on the cold metal table. They'd taken her phone, her bag, even the shoelaces from her sneakers. Standard procedure for someone they thought might be dangerous. Smart cops. The door creaked open. The grizzled sergeant from the warehouse entered, holding 2 steaming paper cups. He set one in front of Riley without comment. "Black coffee, no sugar." She didn't touch it. "Riley Cole," he said, flipping open a notepad. His name tag read, Henderson. "Funny thing. Ran your name through the system. Came up empty." Riley kept her face blank. "I'm new in town." Henderson sipped his coffee. "New enough to not have a driver's license? School records? Medical history?" He leaned forward. "Or is Cole not your real name?" Across the table, Riley's pulse remained steady. She'd played this game before. "I'd like a lawyer." "That's your right." Henderson didn't move. "But here's what's interesting. Those men in the warehouse? 2 have priors. Assault, armed robbery. The kind of guys who work for people even worse than them." His eyes locked onto hers. The kind of people a teenage girl shouldn't know. The door burst open before Riley could respond. A harried-looking officer leaned in. "Sergeant, you need to see this." Henderson sighed and stood. "Don't go anywhere." As the door clicked shut, Riley allowed herself one deep breath. This was bad. If they ran her prints, if they dug too deep. Her thoughts were interrupted by shouting from the hallway. Familiar shouting. "Don't care what my father says. I'm not leaving until I see her. Jason Cole." Riley's head snapped up as the door flew open again. Jason stood framed in the doorway, his Letterman jacket slightly askew, face flushed with anger. Behind him, an older version of himself, same strong jaw, same cold eyes, gripped his shoulder. "Jason, enough," the man growled. Jason shook him off. "I just want to talk to her." Henderson reappeared, looking between them all. "Mr. Cole, I told you." The older Cole, clearly someone important, cut him off. "Sergeant, a word outside." As the adult stepped into the hallway, Jason slipped fully into the room. The door didn't quite close behind him. Riley eyed him warily. "What do you want?" Jason surprised her by pulling out the chair opposite and sitting. His usual swagger was gone, replaced by something she couldn't quite place. "Those guys today," he said quietly. "They weren't just random creeps, were they?" Riley said nothing. Jason leaned forward. "I heard what they called you. Ghost." His fingers tapped nervously on the table. "My dad's been getting calls all night. From people he works with." A cold understanding dawned on Riley. "Your father knows Victor." Jason's jaw tightened. It was answer enough. The pieces clicked into place. Jason's untouchable status at school, the way teachers looked the other way when he caused trouble. His family was connected, and now they knew who she was. Jason suddenly grabbed her hand. Riley nearly broke his wrist on instinct before she saw the desperation in his eyes. "You need to get out of here," he hissed. "Tonight. Because my dad? He doesn't help people. He owns them." Footsteps approached in the hall. Jason released her just as the door opened fully. Henderson entered first, his expression unreadable. Behind him, Jason's father smiled, a predator's smile. "Miss Cole," he said smoothly, "what an interesting young woman you are." Riley's muscles coiled, ready to spring, but the man simply placed a business card on the table. "Detective Henderson has agreed to release you into my custody. I'll be seeing you home." Jason paled. "Dad." "Quiet, Jason." The elder Cole never took his eyes off Riley. "We have much to discuss." "Ghost." Henderson looked between them all, clearly unhappy but outranked. "Your belongings are at the front desk." Riley stood slowly, calculating exits. The detective's hand rested near his sidearm. Jason's father blocked the door. Trapped again. She took the business card without looking at it. "After you," she said sweetly. As they walked down the hallway, Jason grabbed her arm, hard enough to bruise. "Play along," he whispered urgently. "Then run like hell." His father glanced back. Jason released her instantly, but the warning lingered in the air between them. At the front desk, a clerk handed Riley a plastic bag with her things. Her shoelaces were still missing. The elder Cole gestured toward the exit. "My car's just outside." Riley smiled. "Can't wait." As they stepped into the parking lot, Riley's eyes darted across the shadows. No black SUVs. No police backup. Just a sleek Mercedes with tinted windows. Jason's father reached for the passenger door. Riley moved. She drove her elbow into his kidney, sending him crashing into the car. Before he could recover, she snatched the keys from his hand and sprinted for the street. "Stop her!" She didn't look back. The keys went down a storm drain as she hit the sidewalk at full speed. Sirens wailed behind her, but Riley knew these streets better than any cop. She rounded a corner and vaulted a fence, landing in an alley reeking of garbage. Only then did she risk stopping to catch her breath. The business card was still clutched in her fist. Riley lifted it to the dim light. Anthony Cole, Deputy Chief of Police. Beneath the official title, a handwritten note. Asterisk, the underground misses its champion. Asterisk. Riley crushed the card in her palm. Jason's father wasn't just connected. He was the boss. The alley's cold seeped into Riley's bones as she crouched behind a dumpster, listening for sirens. None came, yet. She pulled out her phone, the cracked screen glowing faintly in the dark. One unread message from an unknown number. Asterisk, you have 24 hours to turn yourself in, or the boy dies. Asterisk. Attached was a photo of Ethan, bruised and gagged, tied to a chair in what looked like a basement. Riley's stomach twisted. They'd taken him after the police station. Because of her. She pocketed the phone and peered around the dumpster. The streets were quiet, but that meant nothing. Victor's men could be anywhere. Anthony Cole's cops too. A rat scuttled past her foot as she moved deeper into the alley. She needed a weapon. A plan. Most of all, she needed to not feel like a scared kid again. The ghost wouldn't be scared. At the alley's end, a flickering neon sign cast red light over a boarded-up pawn shop. Riley jimmied the back door open with a credit card from her wallet. One of the few things the cops hadn't confiscated. The air inside smelled of dust and mildew. Glass display cases lined the walls, mostly empty. But behind the counter, Riley found what she needed. A baseball bat leaning against the wall, its grip worn smooth from use. She hefted it, testing the weight. Not her preferred weapon, but it would do. Something clattered in the front of the store. Riley froze. Bat raised. Footsteps shuffled through the debris. More than one person. Check the back, a gruff voice ordered. Riley's grip tightened. She could take them 2, maybe 3 if they were sloppy. But noise would bring more. And she couldn't afford to get caught now. Not with Ethan's life on the line. A shadow moved toward the counter. Riley held her breath. The back door burst open behind her. She spun, bat swinging. Whoa! Easy! Jason Cole ducked, barely avoiding the blow. His face was pale under the alley's dim light. "I'm alone," he hissed. Riley didn't lower the bat. "Prove it." Jason lifted his shirt, turning slowly. No wires. No weapons. Satisfied. "What are you doing here?" "Trying to save your ass." Jason glanced toward the front of the store where the voices grew closer. "We need to go. Now." Riley hesitated. Every instinct screamed this was a trap. But Jason's hands shook slightly. Real fear, not acting. She nodded toward the back door. "Move." They slipped into the night just as flashlights flooded the pawnshop's interior. Jason led her through a maze of backstreets, finally stopping at a beat-up pickup truck parked behind a laundromat. "Get in," he said, digging keys from his pocket. Riley didn't move. "Why are you helping me?" Jason's jaw worked silently for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was raw. "Because my dad's a monster, and I'm tired of pretending he's not." The honesty in his eyes made Riley lower the bat slightly. Jason opened the driver's side door. "Ethan's my friend too, you know. Before all this, we used to play Xbox together." He swallowed hard. "I didn't know they'd take him." Riley studied Jason's face, the dark circles under his eyes, the way his fingers tapped nervously on the doorframe. He was telling the truth, or believed he was. She climbed into the passenger seat. "Where to?" Jason started the engine. "Someplace safe." As the truck pulled onto the street, Riley caught movement in the side mirror, a black sedan sliding out from a side alley. "Jason, I see them." His knuckles whitened on the wheel. "Hold on." The truck lurched forward as Jason slammed the gas. The sedan matched their speed, closing the gap. Riley gripped the dashboard. "How many exits does this tin can have?" Jason took a sharp right without braking. "Just the doors." "Why?" "Because we're about to lose them." Riley pointed to an approaching intersection. "Turn left there." Hard. Jason barely made the turn, tires screeching. The sedan overshot, skidding straight. "Nice," Riley admitted. Jason didn't smile. "They'll circle back." Riley pulled out her phone, checking the photo of Ethan again. The timestamp showed it was taken just 30 minutes ago. "We need to find where they're holding him." Jason hesitated. "I might know a place." The truck sped through the emptying streets, putting distance between them and their pursuers. After 20 minutes of twisting turns, they reached the industrial outskirts of town. Jason parked behind a derelict meatpacking plant. "Dad owns this place. Uses it for storage." Riley studied the darkened building. No lights. No movement. "You sure?" "No." Jason's voice was tight. "But it's where he took me once when..." He trailed off, rubbing his wrist absently. Riley didn't press. She grabbed the bat and stepped out. "Stay here." "Like hell." Jason popped the glove compartment, pulling out a pistol. Riley's eyebrows shot up. Jason checked the magazine with practiced ease. "What? You think quarterback was the only thing my dad trained me for?" They approached the building silently. The side door was unlocked, a bad sign. Inside, the air reeked of bleach and something metallic. Voices echoed from deeper within. Riley motioned for Jason to take the left flank as they crept forward. The hallway opened into a large processing area where carcasses once hung. Now, it held only a single chair, and Ethan. He was slumped forward, his face bloody. Two men stood guard, smoking cigarettes by a portable heater. Riley counted exits. One behind the guards, one to their right. No sign of Victor or Anthony Cole. Jason tapped her shoulder, holding up two fingers, then pointing to himself and her. Riley nodded. They struck simultaneously. Jason's first shot took the larger guard in the shoulder, spinning him around. Riley charged the second, swinging the bat into his ribs with a sickening crack. The fight was brutal but quick. Within seconds, both guards were down. Riley rushed to Ethan, cutting his bonds with a knife from the floor. "Hey, look at me." Ethan groaned, his left eye swollen shut. "Riley?" Jason appeared at her side. "We need to move. They'll have heard." A slow clap echoed through the room. Victor stepped from the shadows, a smirk on his scarred face. Behind him, for more men spread out, blocking the exits. "Touching reunion," Victor said, drawing a pistol. "But the boss wants his property back." Riley positioned herself between Victor and Ethan. "I'm not anyone's property." Victor's smile widened. He raised the gun, not at Riley, but at Jason. "Then I guess the boy dies after all." The gunshot echoed like thunder in the empty plant. The gunshot's echo faded into ringing silence. Riley braced for blood, for Jason to crumple, but he remained standing, eyes wide. Behind Victor, one of his men dropped to his knees, then face first onto the concrete, a dark stain spreading between his shoulder blades. "Down!" Jason tackled Riley and Ethan behind a rusted conveyor belt as another shot whined off the metal above them. Ethan gasped. "Who the hell?" A new voice cut through the chaos. Female, commanding. "Victor, you're surrounded. Drop it." Victor snarled something in Russian and fired toward the shadowed catwalks overhead. The answering gunfire drove him and his remaining men scrambling for cover. Riley risked a glance upward. Silhouettes moved along the walkways, at least 6 shooters in tactical gear. Not cops. Not underground. Jason yanked her back down as another volley ricocheted past. "Marco's people," he hissed. "Marco!" Riley's stomach dropped. The only Marco she knew was her old fight promoter, the one who'd sold her out to Victor. The firefight escalated. Someone threw a flashbang that lit up the processing floor like lightning. In the disorienting bursts of light and noise, Riley made out figures rappelling down from the catwalks. "Now!" She hauled Ethan up, supporting his weight as they bolted for a side exit. Jason covered their retreat, firing his pistol with surprising accuracy. They burst through a fire door into the parking lot. The cold night air stung Riley's lungs as she scanned for escape routes. A black van screeched to a halt in front of them. The side door flew open, revealing a muscular woman with neon blue hair, the same girl who'd warned Riley about Jason on her first day. "Get in if you want to live," she barked. Jason hesitated. Riley didn't. She shoved Ethan into the van and dove in after him. With a curse, Jason followed. The van peeled out as bullets punched through the rear doors. Riley crouched over Ethan, checking his injuries in the dim interior light. "Who are you?" Jason demanded, training his gun on the blue-haired girl. She smirked, unfazed by the weapon. "Name's Wraith. And you're welcome." Riley's breath caught. Wraith was underground legend, a fighter who'd supposedly burned down one of Victor's clubs and disappeared. Wraith caught her look. Yeah, the ghost meets the Wraith. Cute. She tossed Riley a medkit. "Patch up your boy. We got a long ride." The van swerved onto the highway, putting distance between them and the meatpacking plant. Through the small rear window, Riley saw flames licking up from the building. Jason lowered his gun slightly. "Where are you taking us?" "Somewhere Cole can't reach." Wraith pulled a burner phone from her jacket and handed it to Riley. "He wants to talk to you." Riley pressed the phone to her ear. "Who is this?" "Still got a mouth on you, kid." Marco's familiar rasp sent a chill down her spine. 2 years and that's your hello?" Riley's grip tightened on the phone. "You set me up. And now I'm unsetting you." Marco coughed, a wet, painful sound. "Listen close. Anthony Cole didn't just take over the underground. He's turning it into something worse." Outside, highway lights strobed through the van's windows. Riley watched Ethan's chest rise and fall, his breathing steadier now. "What do you care?" she asked Marco. "Because I'm dying, kid. And before I go, I want to burn Cole's empire to the ground." Another coughing fit. "But I need the ghost to do it." The van hit a pothole, jostling them all. Wraith muttered curses as she wrestled with the wheel. Riley closed her eyes. "What's the play?" Marco's voice hardened. "Cole's hosting a fight night tomorrow. High rollers only. You show up. Let Victor capture you." Jason, who'd been listening in, shook his head violently. Marco continued, "Once you're inside, we hit them where it hurts. Take Cole down. Save your friend. And if I say no?" Then you're on your own against every cop and criminal in this city." Marco paused. "Your choice, kid." The line went dead. Riley stared at the phone. Wraith glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "Well," Ethan groaned, reaching weakly for Riley's hand. "Don't do it." Jason's jaw was set. It's a trap. Riley knew that. But she also knew the photo of Ethan tied up. Knew the feel of Anthony Cole's eyes on her. Like she was already his property. She met Wraith's gaze in the mirror. "Tell Marco I'm in." As the van sped into the night, Riley leaned back, already planning. Let them think she was walking into a trap. The ghost knew how to turn traps into graves. The safe house smelled like old cigarettes and gun oil. Riley sat at a rickety kitchen table, cleaning a stolen pistol while Wraith paced nearby, talking rapid-fire into her headset. "Need the blueprints by midnight. And tell Marco the cops have roadblocks on I-90. She caught Riley watching and rolled her eyes. "Logistics. You just focus on looking pretty for your big comeback." Ethan groaned from the couch where he was nursing 3 broken ribs and a concussion. "This is insane. You can't just walk into." "Yes, she can." Jason emerged from the bathroom, toweling off his freshly dyed black hair. The blonde quarterback was gone, replaced by someone harder, angrier. "Dad's arrogant. He'll want to show off capturing the ghost personally." Riley snapped the pistol's slide back into place. "You don't have to be here for this." Jason's laugh was bitter. "After what he did to Mom. To me." He tossed the towel aside. "I've been waiting years to burn his world down." Wraith's phone buzzed. She checked it, then whistled. "Intel's in. Cole's got the whole precinct in his pocket, including the SWAT team." She turned the screen toward them, showing blueprints of an upscale downtown nightclub. "Fight nights here tomorrow. Heavy security. No outsiders." Riley studied the schematics, memorizing exits, sightlines. "How many fighters?" 12. Plus Victor's cleanup crew. Wraith smirked. "All meatheads who've never faced real competition." Ethan struggled to sit up. "You're missing the point. Even if you win, Cole won't let you walk away. That's why we're not playing by his rules." Riley pulled a burner phone from her pocket and dialed a number she'd sworn never to call again. A woman answered on the second ring. "Federal Bureau of Investigation." Riley took a deep breath. "Special Agent Carter? It's your daughter." The silence stretched so long Riley thought the call had dropped. Then, "Riley." Her mother's voice was ice. "You have 10 seconds to explain why I shouldn't have a team descend on your location." "Because I'm giving you Anthony Cole. All of him." Riley met Jason's shocked gaze, including proof he ordered hits on 3 city officials. Another pause. "Where?" "Eclipse Nightclub. Tomorrow night." Riley rattled off the address from Wraith's blueprints. "Come in quiet. Cole owns the local cops." "You realize if this is a trap?" "It's not." Riley's throat tightened. "I need your word, Mom." Everyone walks away after. Even me. Static filled the line. Then, so quiet Riley almost missed it. "Be safe." The call ended. Jason looked like he'd been slapped. "Your mother's FBI?" "Counter-terrorism, actually." Riley stood, holstering the pistol at the small of her back. "She's the reason I know how to disappear." Wraith let out a low whistle. "Well, shit. That changes things." Ethan rubbed his temples. "So what's the real plan?" Riley smiled, the same smile she'd given Jason that first day in the hallway. "First, we let them catch me." 24 hours later. The bouncer at Eclipse didn't even check Riley's fake ID before waving her inside. Too busy staring at her tight black dress, no doubt. The club pulsed with bass-heavy music and the scent of expensive liquor. Riley moved through the crowd like she belonged there, scanning for familiar faces. She spotted Victor first, holding court in a VIP booth, his scarred face twisted in laughter. Then Anthony Cole himself, holding a tumbler of whiskey near the roped-off basement stairs. Riley made sure Cole saw her before slipping into the women's restroom. She didn't have to wait long. The door burst open, revealing 2 of Victor's men. Riley pretended to gasp, backing against the sinks. "Ghost," the larger one sneered. "Boss wants a word." Riley let them grab her arms. Let them drag her through the club toward Cole. Let everyone see the fear on her face. Perfect. Because the wire taped between her shoulder blades was recording everything. And outside, Riley's mother was listening. The basement of Eclipse wasn't a nightclub. It was a fighting pit surrounded by bloodthirsty elites. Riley's heels scraped concrete as Victor's men shoved her into the center of the makeshift arena. The crowd, men in tailored suits, women dripping in diamonds, cheered like she was the main event. Anthony Cole stood at the edge of the pit, his smile razor-thin. Riley Carter, or should I say, Rebecca Carter, FBI brat. Riley's blood turned to ice. He knew. Victor tossed a pair of MMA gloves at her feet. "Put them on, little ghost. You're fighting for your life tonight." The crowd roared approval. Riley slowly picked up the gloves, scanning the room. No sign of Jason or Wraith. No FBI breach. Just armed guards at every exit. Her wire itched between her shoulder blades. "You're dumber than I thought," Cole said, sipping his whiskey. "Did you really believe I wouldn't sweep for listening devices?" Riley's stomach dropped as Victor held up a small black receiver, her wire. Cole crushed it under his polished shoe. "Now, let's see if you fight as well as you lie." A steel door clanged open across the pit. Out shuffled a mountain of a man, 6'5", arms thicker than Riley's thighs. The crowd erupted. "Meet Goliath," Victor chuckled. "Undefeated in 3 years." Goliath cracked his knuckles, grinning through a broken nose. Riley rolled her shoulders, calculating angles. She'd fought bigger, faster, but never with this much at stake. The bell rang. Goliath charged like a bull. Riley sidestepped at the last second, driving an elbow into his kidney. He grunted but didn't slow, backhanding her hard enough to send her crashing into the cage wall. Blood filled Riley's mouth. She spat it on the concrete as the crowd screamed for her death. Goliath came again. This time when Riley dodged, she swept his legs. The giant went down hard, but grabbed her ankle on the way, yanking her off her feet. Riley's head bounced off the floor. Stars exploded across her vision as Goliath mounted her, fists raised. A gunshot echoed through the basement. Goliath froze. The crowd scattered as another shot rang out. Then another. Riley rolled free just as the lights cut out, plunging the pit into darkness. Screams. Crashing glass. The staccato pop of gunfire. A hand grabbed Riley's arm. Jason. His face barely visible in the emergency exit's glow. "Move!" They ducked behind overturned tables as chaos erupted. Muzzle flashes illuminated terrified socialites crawling for cover. "Where's Wraith?" Riley shouted over the noise. Jason's expression darkened. "She's the one who sold you out. Told my dad about the wire." Riley cursed. Of course. A new sound cut through the gunfire. Screaming tires and megaphones. "FBI! Everyone down!" Jason pulled Riley toward a service exit. "We gotta go now." She hesitated. "Your father is finished." Jason's grin was fierce. "I leaked everything to the press on our way here. His dirty cops. The murders. Even Mom's accident." The exit door burst open. Wraith stood there, pistol raised, but not at them. At Victor, who was trying to flee up the stairs behind her. "Sorry, boss," Wraith said, and fired twice. Victor dropped like a sack of meat. Riley and Jason stared. Wraith shrugged. "What? I hate rats." Sirens wailed outside. Riley grabbed Jason's hand. "Last chance to disappear." He squeezed back. "Together." As FBI agents stormed the building, the three of them slipped into the night, leaving Anthony Cole screaming after them, his empire collapsing in real time. Somewhere in the distance, Riley's mother shouted orders. She didn't look back. The safehouse shower ran pink with blood as Riley scrubbed Goliath's sweat off her skin. Outside, dawn painted the sky in bruised purples and oranges. She turned the water as hot as it would go, letting the steam scald away the last traces of the Fight Club. A knock at the bathroom door. 5 minutes, Wraith called through the wood. Then we're wheels up. Riley shut off the water. She dressed mechanically. Black jeans, stolen FBI hoodie, boots laced tight. The face in the mirror was someone she barely recognized anymore. The main room smelled of gunpowder and cheap coffee. Jason sat at the kitchen table, dismantling a pistol with practiced hands. Wraith paced by the windows, peering through the blinds every few seconds. Ethan was gone, dropped at a hospital 2 towns over with enough cash and a fake story about a car crash. Riley's duffel bag waited by the door, already packed. Jason didn't look up from his work. "Your mom's on TV." The tiny wall-mounted TV showed Special Agent Elaine Carter standing stiffly behind a podium, reporters shouting questions about the shocking corruption scandal. Riley's mother ignored them all, her face as unreadable as it had been at Riley's 10th birthday party, the last one they'd spent together before the divorce. Wraith tossed Riley a burner phone. "New identity. Passports in the bag. You're Rachel Walker now, college sophomore studying abroad." Riley caught the phone but didn't check it. "Where am I going?" "Wherever you want." Wraith jerked her chin at Jason. "Golden boy here pulled strings with his mom's family in Europe. You've got clean papers, cash, and a head start." Jason finally looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed but steady. "I'm staying. Someone's got to testify against my old man." The words hung between them. Riley had known this was coming, had planned for it, even, but the reality punched harder than Goliath ever could. Wraith cleared her throat. "Car's here. Let's move." They exited through the back, slipping into a nondescript sedan with tinted windows. The driver didn't speak, just merged onto the highway heading east. Riley watched the city skyline shrink in the side mirror. Somewhere down there, her mother was giving another press conference. Anthony Cole was in handcuffs. Ethan was probably flirting with some nurse. And Jason. He reached across the seat, squeezing her hand once before letting go. "You gonna be okay?" Riley thought about the first time she'd stepped into an underground ring. 16, desperate, with nothing to lose. Thought about the way the crowd had chanted "Ghost," like it was something holy. She leaned her head against the window. "I don't know." The lie tasted bitter. Because the truth was, Riley Carter had died years ago in that first fight. The ghost had bled out somewhere in Eclipse's basement. The girl in this car? She didn't have a name yet, and maybe that was okay. Wraith passed back an envelope. "Last stop before the airport." Inside was a single key and an address. A beach house in Portugal, paid in full. Riley closed her eyes as the car sped toward the sunrise. Somewhere, a new day was beginning. The Lisbon safe house smelled of salt and old wood. Riley stood barefoot on the terrace, watching the Atlantic chew at the cliffs below. 3 weeks since the airport drop-off. 2 since she'd last checked the encrypted chat where Wraith occasionally checked in. The burner phone vibrated on the wrought iron table. Riley let it ring 5 times before answering. "What's dead should stay dead." Touching. Her mother's voice hadn't changed, all clipped consonants and controlled breathing. "You left behind a mess." Riley watched a fishing boat struggle against the waves. "I left behind evidence. Testimony. Everything you needed to bury Cole." "Not everything." A pause. "Your friend Jason is making life difficult for the prosecutors. Refuses to testify about the Fight Club operations." The wind picked up, carrying the scent of impending rain. Riley tasted metal. She'd bitten her cheek without realizing. "What do you want?" "Come home." Riley laughed, sharp and sudden as a gunshot. "No. Rebecca." That name doesn't exist anymore. A longer pause. When her mother spoke again, the carefully cultivated detachment had cracked. "I could force you." Riley gripped the railing. "The sea looked hungry today. Try." The line went dead. She threw the burner into the ocean. The nightmares always started the same way, the smell of sweat and copper, the sting of tape on her knuckles, Marco's voice whispering, "Showtime," "Ghost," in her ear. Riley woke gasping, the Portuguese sun assaulting her through thin curtains. Her sheets were drenched. The clock read 3:17 p.m. She stumbled into the shower fully clothed. The water was cold. She kept it that way, punishing herself awake. The face in the mirror had new lines under its eyes. The doorbell rang. Riley froze. No one knew this address except Wraith. And Wraith didn't ring doorbells. She palmed the steak knife from the kitchen counter and approached on silent feet. Through the peephole, a distorted Jason Cole stood waiting, holding 2 six-packs of Sagres beer. Riley opened the door. "You're supposed to be in witness protection." Jason grinned, sunburned and brighter than she remembered. "Turns out I make a terrible damsel in distress." The knife clattered to the tiles. Riley didn't realize she was shaking until Jason pulled her into a hug that smelled like airplane peanuts and cheap cologne. "They offered me a deal," he said into her hair. "Immunity for everything except the FBI impersonation charges." Riley stiffened. "What FBI impersonation?" Jason's laugh vibrated through both of them. "Turns out flashing a fake badge at a police barricade is frowned upon." "Who knew?" She pulled back to study his face. "You're different. Got my GED. Applied to community college." He held up the beers. "Also, I may have stolen these from your mom's surveillance team outside." Riley went very still. "How many?" "Relax. Just 2 guys in a Renault. Amateurs." Jason shouldered past her into the house. "Now are we drinking these or what?" The knife still lay on the floor where she'd dropped it. Riley kicked it under the couch and followed him inside. They drank on the cliff's edge as the sun bled into the sea. Jason had brought more than beer, a manila folder thick with surveillance photos and court documents. "Your mom's not the only one who can play spy," he said, flipping to a photo of Anthony Cole in an orange jumpsuit. "Trial starts next month." Riley traced her father's face in one of the photos, a man she hadn't seen since he'd abandoned her at a bus station at 14. "Why show me this?" "Because you deserve to know." Jason cracked another beer. "Also, Wraith may have promised me 50 grand if I got you to come back for one last job." The bottle froze halfway to Riley's lips. "She's here." "Not here. Jason waved vaguely north. "Paris, I think." Something about a Russian arms dealer and a missing Van Gogh. The waves crashed louder beneath them. Riley counted breaths until the anger subsided. "Tell her no." "I did." Jason grinned. Then she offered 75. Riley threw her empty bottle at his head. He ducked, laughing, and for the first time in years, the sound didn't make her want to break something. Maybe healing wasn't a straight line. Maybe it was this, sitting on a cliff with a former enemy, learning how to breathe without waiting for the next fight. Jason's phone buzzed. He checked it and snorted. "Speak of the devil." He turned the screen toward Riley. A single text from an unknown number. * tell Ghost the Underground's hiring again. Better pay. Dental this time. *. Riley took the phone and threw it into the ocean. Jason's shout of protest turned into laughter as she produced a second burner from her pocket and dialed a number from memory. Her mother answered on the first ring. "I'm listening." Riley watched the last sliver of sun disappear below the horizon. "Get me into Quantico." The silence stretched so long she thought the call had dropped. Then, so quiet it might have been the wind. "Welcome home, Rebecca." Jason's eyebrows disappeared into his hairline. Riley hung up and tossed that phone into the sea too. The moon rose over the Atlantic. Somewhere beneath the waves, 3 burners filled with ghosts stopped ringing.